Hello and welcome back to the channel for the last transfer mercato roundup here. We're going to be covering a couple of the more medium-sized teams and then kind of go over some of the rest of the table, give a little bit of a rundown on some of the other teams. We will start with the three kind of bigger teams first, which is going to be Lazio, Napoli, and Atalanta. Then we'll cover some of the middling teams like Fiorentina, Sassuolo, Torino, those kind of better upper middle teams that can surprise you and maybe challenge for a Europa League spot if the league goes their way. So we're going to start first here with Lazio. Lazio, the biggest thing is that they lost Joaquin Correa, which I think is a huge loss. I don't think they're going to feel it as much as other teams would just with how they play. Their midfield is remarkable. I think they have a great midfield, and they still did make some decent signings for a front here. They tried to replace Correa with Felipe Anderson, who is really not a very similar player. Correa is more of that type of player who plays more inside as like a second striker. Felipe Anderson can do it, but he's definitely better out wide. But for the fee that they paid for him, I think $3 to $4 million to bring him back, I think it's a great re-signing. Anderson is the type of player who was worth in the 30 millions a few years ago when he went back across the Premier League, but now that he's back, I just feel like he's kind of finds his home here a little more. I think he's going to thrive and be actually a great, useful attacker for Lazio. The other one is they've got Toma Basic from Bordeaux. I think he's going to be a good signing, just more depth for their already good midfield. He's not going to start over the midfield, but he is going to hopefully work his way in there. So overall, a good signing there. Next, and the last one, I guess you can talk about Husai and Pedro, who kind of came across from both Napoli and Roma respectively, who are going to play their role. I think it's very smart. But the other one that I really, really like, and as a Milan fan, a player that I thought Milan should have picked up as he was holding out the entire transfer market for Milan, but Milan finally said, no, we're not going to pay it, and buy a worse player in my opinion, which I'm not going to get into since that's going to be digressing too much, is Matias Akane. I think this guy has been just waiting to go to a big team for a while. He is stepping up each year after year, staying consistent. He's always threatening anytime I see him play, and he's very, very versatile. Yes, he's listed primarily as an attacking midfielder, but he can play on the left wing, which is where he mainly plays, right wing, or as that second striker. I think this is a great signing. He's taking that step up in his career. He's playing on a very free playing team, and I think he's going to thrive here. You've got Immobile to occupy defenders, so Zaccagni is going to find a lot of time, a lot of space. I think this is a great choice. With having quick players like Anderson, tricky players like Zaccagni, then you've got Immobile up there. I think Lazio is going to be just like their inner city neighbors, Roma. I think those two teams are probably going to be the most fun teams to watch in Serie A. On top of that, they've also got Maurizio Sarri, which I think is the perfect team. So really, Lazio is going to be a team to watch. I think that they might be one of the shock teams of the season. Maybe it's not a shock because everybody knows they're already a very good team, but they might be able to challenge for the title if they get a good enough consistent run going. So Lazio is definitely one of those teams who is looking very, very good, and I think they did a very good job with their transfers. They had one big loss, but they brought in a lot of other players. They did also lose Caicedo, who... that's okay. He was a super sub though, so I don't think they necessarily should have gotten rid of him unless he really wanted to leave, but it is what it is. Next we go to Napoli. Not a lot was done with Napoli. If you look at what was actually brought in, it was just Juan Jesus actually having to pay the fee on Politano, and then the only other real kind of true signing would have been Andre Zambo Anguissa from Fulham, initial loan with an option to buy. I think Anguissa is actually going to be a very good signing here. He's going to be physical. I think he's going to kind of play a similar role as Bakayoko did. Is he going to be better than Bakayoko? I think he probably will be there. I think Bakayoko was great on Milan, but was okay on Napoli. I think Anguissa is actually going to be very, very good. I like the guy, I like his talent. I think he's going to be very stout and strong and give a little bit of midfield steel to Napoli. So I think that's a good transfer, but they really did not do anything up top. Then again, did they really need to do anything up top? They still got Dries Mertens. They still have Osimhen, who as long as he doesn't get injured is going to be amazing. They've still got Politano. And the biggest thing is they didn't lose Insigne. That was the big topic. He was linked to go. Is he going to go to Juve? Is he going to go to Inter? Is he going to go to Milan? Where's he going to go, right? Ends up staying, which is kind of what I thought was going to end up happening anyways. I'm glad he did. Napoli needs him. He is born and bred Napolitano. So it's kind of nice to see Insigne staying there. Overall, I can't really say anything remarkable for Napoli's transfer market. I think that as we already covered, Lazio might give their mercato like a 7.5. I would have given it higher, but they ended up losing Joaquin Correa, so maybe it's even lower, like a 7 or a 6.5. But Napoli, I gotta give it like a 5. They didn't really do anything. They didn't really need to do too much, but they didn't really do anything either. So I don't think they made any great improvements to their squad at all. They're just kind of keeping things the same. The one thing that they did do is they replaced Gattuso with Luciano Spalletti. I think Gattuso gets a bit of a rough, view here. He did great at Milan and missed the Champions League by 1 point. He did great at Napoli and kind of made a lot of these players who were kind of prima donnas into more kind of quality, strong men. And it's sad they have to say that in these days, but it sometimes takes a tough character like Gattuso to bring that out of people. But overall, Spalletti is a very quality manager. He doesn't do anything special, but he's consistent. And so I think that this is what Napoli wanted. They want somebody who is probably going to get him back into the Champions League and stay in that top 4. So I think that this is a good signing by them just for getting Spalletti. Transfer mercato, 5, 4.5. They didn't really do too much. So kind of middling. If you look then at the last of the kind of bigger clubs, it's going to be Atalanta. Now Atalanta, they did have more activity than Lazio had. They had a couple going out, a couple coming in. As far as the out goes, the biggest one by far is going to be Christian Romero. Romero leaves for Tottenham. I get it, it's a huge feat. I personally wish that they would have held on to him, as I think he fit their style perfectly. They did replace him with Merih Demiral from Juventus, who's going to be pretty expensive if they do choose to redeem, but I don't think he's as good of a player as Romero. Still, it's a good choice to come in and give you a similar quality, similar aggression, so good choice there. They're not going to feel the loss of Romero as much. They did also bring in Juan Musso, who I think is a great goalkeeper, so awesome choice there. As Golini has left for Tottenham as well, so Tottenham has taken 2 players from Atalanta. Musso comes across from Udinese, good choice there. They also got Koopmeiners from AZ, and I think that's a good choice there. It's a good, strong defensive midfielder, a good long-range passing, long-range shot on him, so very solid choice. I don't know how much he's going to upgrade the team very much, but he's got a lot of talent, and I feel like maybe not this year he's going to do a ton for them, but Gasperini, it's hard to underestimate what he can do, because maybe Koopmeiners comes in and you'd expect him maybe in a year or 2 to start finding his feet, and he might just hit the ground running and become a great, classy defensive midfielder player. So we'll see. I think he's a good signing, though. And then Davide Zappacosta for right back, I think is also a very solid signing. So overall, Atalanta, I actually think, while they didn't do much to fully improve the team or do a lot of moves, they kind of kept things the same and made slight improvements. They got a couple kind of class players there. Koopmeiners can be good eventually. A kind of indirect replacement for Romero and Demiral. Good keeper in Musso. So overall, I think it's pretty solid. If you gotta say the biggest thing about their mercato, they didn't lose Duvan Zapata. He was linked to go everywhere, especially with Inter Milan. And I'm so glad he didn't go there, because I think Atalanta really would have missed him. Muriel is amazing. One of my favorite players in Serie A. But Zapata brings so much. He brings so much strength, quality, consistent goals. I just don't think you can afford to miss out on the guy, and you really have to replace him if he goes. So I'm glad Atalanta kept it. Their mercato overall, I would give it about a 7, because they didn't really weaken any, and they may have strengthened a bit, and they kept their key players. So good job for Atalanta. Next, we're going to move on to Fiorentina, who we're moving into that kind of next tier of team. We're gone with the kind of top 7 teams who are really competitive. Now we're in the next level. If you look at what they've done over this mercato, they did bring in a few names. They brought in a couple that I like. They brought in Nastasic, who I think is going to be solid. I don't know how much they needed it, as their center backs seem pretty solid, but I think it's a good choice. I think he's going to play oftentimes next to Milenkovic, who I think is a very, very good defender. They've got Igor still as well, and the biggest 2 signings I would say would be Nicolas Gonzalez, of course, monetarily the biggest. I think they paid somewhere around 24 million, who is going to be a really nice signing for that wing there, and hopefully fill the gap that not having Ribéry there anymore is going to fill. And then Lucas Torreira, who I think is actually my favorite signing for Fiorentina. He's not going to be super expensive for them, and I just think it's the perfect time to come back to Serie A. He's at a perfect age. I believe he's 25. He's a very feisty, aggressive midfielder who can both defend plus attack. He's got very, very agile, quick feet. I think the guy's excellent. He's kind of your classical Uruguayan player. He's tough, he's rugged, but he's also got classy skills. So I really like that signing, and I personally am looking for him to have a very, very good season in Serie A. I think that Fiorentina has done a great job with this specific mercato, and the biggest arrival, which is not really an arrival, is that they ended up keeping Dusan Vlahovic, which is massive because the importance of keeping him is worth everything. They lose Vlahovic, they lose their brightest star, they lose the person who is going to hopefully get them maybe closer to Europa League. I just think that this guy is going to be the next big thing. I mean, besides, Erling Haaland, and, we already have some great strikers out there, he's going to be kind of the next big Serie A striker. I was hoping Scamacca could do a similar thing as him, but he really just doesn't have any playing time. He's not really starting anywhere, but really Dusan Vlahovic is the guy. He's definitely going to a big team next year, but the fact that Fiorentina could hold on to him for one more year is going to be amazing. It's going to be good for his development, and it's going to be good for Fiorentina. So well done by Comiso to hold on to him. Lastly, I like that they ended up picking up Vincenzo Italiano. I think he's a great manager, very underrated, and I think this is the type of coach that Fiorentina needs to take them to that next level. So look out for Fiorentina to be one of the better teams. They were supposed to be very, very solid last year, but they just didn't have it for some reason. I don't know what was off, but this year they have a very similar team. They've added a couple small pieces, and they've added, in my opinion, a much better coach. So this year is going to be the year of Fiorentina to challenge for Europa League, in my opinion. They may not get it, but they should be challenging. One other thing about Atalanta, a team back that I did not mention, was that they also picked up Mattia Lovato, who I personally really, really like. I think that he is going to be one to watch for the future, and a player that some of the bigger teams really should have been looking at more closely. I just think that he is going to be a very, very solid center back. So let's look at the other Serie A teams here, just kind of briefly. I'm not going to go over too much of it. You've got Udinese, not much really to say there. Bologna, they still got Mihailovic, still have a very similar team. Look out for Orsolini, hopefully he steps up. Sassuolo, they kept Scamacca. He was looking to kind of go to a bunch of different ways. Initially, Milan was linked with him, then Inter was trying to make a push, and then maybe Juve. He ends up just staying. The last link was with Genoa, which looked very, very serious and more serious of all of them, but ended up not going through on the last day, so he's staying at Sassuolo. Now they've got Scamacca and Raspadori. Hopefully both of those two can kind of really step up their game, because it'd be really nice to see two young Italian strikers really come into their own. And they're both very, very different. One's kind of shorter, quicker, a little more tricky. The other one's taller, very skillful, and stronger. So it's very unique. For Sassuolo, the biggest thing, though, is that they kept Domenico Berardi. Yes, they lost Locatelli, and of course you're going to feel that because he brings consistency and stability to your midfield, but he's not that kind of game changer all the time, that you're going to feel as much. So yes, they will miss him, but they're not going to feel it terribly. What they would have felt is if they lost Domenico Berardi. That's their captain. That's their offensive leader. That guy bangs in double-digit goals every single year. He's their free kick taker, mainly. You would just lose way too much if you lost Berardi, and he was really looking to go on the move, because I really don't think he's going to be at Sassuolo much longer. And personally, for his own development, I think he should move. I think that he's been on Sassuolo too long anyways, and it's time for him to move if he wants to do something in his career. Either way, for Sassuolo, it's amazing to hold on to him, so they're still going to be a very competitive and formidable team. Empoli looks feisty. There's nothing really I can say too much about the team between signings in, signings out, but they look to be a decent team. They're definitely going to be a mid-packer, mid-bottom packer. I don't think they're going to get relegated, but they at least look feisty. Sampdoria, not really a big fan. Cagliari seems like they've actually improved a little bit. They're trying hard here to make a couple of smart signings, but I don't think they're going to do great. Of course, they've always got Joao Pedro, who is a great player. Then you've got Genoa, who I believe they brought in Caicedo from Lazio. And I think Genoa is one of those teams that was at risk of relegation. I don't think they're going to be at risk this year. Once again, I'm not sure, but I think that they're going to escape it by a little bit more margin than they did last year. Torino is one of the teams that I've always liked for some reason. I feel like they're a team that has underperformed chronically for the past several seasons here, and I feel like Belotti has, as far as last season goes, his performances have really dropped down, and I think it's just because he's done. I don't think he wants to be there anymore. He doesn't get proper service. He doesn't really get the quality that he's looking for, and he really is looking for a move. I would be shocked if he signed a new contract, and personally, I think if Belotti signs a new contract, he's sealing his fate of pretty much ending any potential he had in his career, because he was on a straight upward trajectory until last year. He took a dip down, so he needs to just play out this last year of his contract and then leave. Most likely he'll probably be going to Milan after that. It's possible he goes to Inter or somewhere else, but I think his time is up. The positive I can say about Torino is they now have Ivan Juric, who I think is a fantastic coach, so I think he's going to do a decent job with them. I hope he does, because they've got a few players that I like Simone Verde, Andrea Belotti, and I believe they also have Rolando Madragora, and I really like all those players there. So they've got a good core unit there. They just haven't been able to pull it together, but Juric is a hard-nosed coach, one of my favorites in Serie A. He is a no-nonsense type of coach, and so I hope that they do very, very well. The kind of bottom teams here that I think are really going to struggle are, of course, the ones that just came up: Venezia, Salernitana. I think those are really, really going to struggle. I actually think that Verona is really going to struggle this year, especially now after losing Akane. I just don't think they're going to have it anymore. They were one of those kind of surprise teams who was kind of middle of the pack, even though they probably should have been lower, but because they played so well and they had Juric, and for a while they were actually kind of mid to mid upper. But I think they're really going to dip down and they're going to struggle this year. The last team is Spezia. I think that they're a very poor team, actually. There's not much to say about them. I think they're going to be fighting for relegation from the first few weeks on. So that's pretty much it. That's my summary of all of the teams' transfer mercatos, how everything went, where they're going to kind of stack up. I think the top 7 are going to pretty much remain the top 7 between Juve, Milan, Inter, Roma, Lazio, Napoli, Atalanta. I think those are going to be your main 7 still, and they're going to kind of battle it out and see who's going to qualify in the top here. But then you're going to have some teams kind of pushing from below, the teams who are going to try to challenge, and the main one, in my opinion, is going to be Fiorentina. I think Sassuolo is still going to be strong, but I don't know if they're going to be able to form a big enough push. So those are going to be the kind of teams to watch out for, the teams I'm really following this year. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my content. If you have your own opinions on how you think that the teams individually did, if you agree or disagree with my evaluations of the teams, let me know. Appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. Take care, and ciao.